everyone. Welcome to Think Tanks today. And today we have Carla Bass. She's been a 30-year Air Force colonel, uh, pro when it comes to writing, has won numerous government awards, helped students all across the globe earn scholarships, entrepreneurs get fundings. She has been helping White House in doing executive orders, writing executive orders. Wow. Carla, welcome to the show and the book, best-selling book author, Right to Influence. Thank you, Carla, for taking time out. Welcome on the show.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity to speak to your audience.
Pleasure. Carla, usually our audience is a kind of mix match people. They are entrepreneurs. They are people who are looking for new career entry positions, and they are kind of looking forward to start their second career. You know, a lot of people have lost their jobs post COVID, and people do keep on changing their career. So today, you being our think tank on the show and a subject matter expert on writing, we would like to pick up your mind, and many people might get influenced. And so let's start the first standard question in our show. We usually talk about identifying one's passion, the point where you are right now, the peak. How did you, when you started, realized your passion on writing, and then how did you converted that passion into a commercial advantage where you're right now?
Sure. The story, and I'll be brief, but the story goes back to when my father, who was also in the Air Force, my father commissioned me. So when he commissioned Second Lieutenant Bass, he gave me 3 pieces of advice that I follow to this very day. And the third piece is what propelled me on this particular course. The first piece of advice was stay focused on the job. Don't get caught up in office politics. The second was always keep your sense of humor. And the third, and this is fundamental, the third was take care of your people and they will take care of you. All
Yeah.
right. So it's that third piece that changed my life. When I was a lieutenant colonel in Hawaii, I was a squadron commander. I took command of a unit of 480 super talented young men and women.
Wow.
When I arrived on the scene, it was the most losing unit in quarterly and annual professional awards. Careers of super deserving people were being hurt, not because they didn't deserve these awards, but because their bosses could not write winning nomination packages. So you, Farid, could be the most brilliant captain that I ever had, but because your boss doesn't know how to write, despite everything you've done, you don't win the awards.
Mm.
So taking care of my people, I had to fix it. So that's where I developed my writing methodology. I turned that into probably a 20-page little handbook. I taught my guys how to write, and we began sweeping the awards. Then the other units came and asked if I could teach them also. And my first thought was, well, darn, there goes my competitive edge. But I did. I taught them, and I ended up teaching it for 20 years to thousands of people. And that's what brought me here today: is take care of people, do right by them, help them be able to tell their own stories, and that opens doors to opportunity. So that the battle cry that I developed based on that experience is that powerful writing changes lives. End of conversation. And I get testimonials to this very day. Colonel Bass, if it hadn't been for, I wouldn't have been able to. And that's what keeps me going.
Wow, wow. So you have changed so many lives with your passion. Not only you enjoy, but you have actually helped people elevate to the next level.
Yep.
Wonderful, amazing. Carla, how do you think that somebody who has flair for writing, who's right now getting impressed or persuaded with what you are saying, wants to make writing as the passion or the next move, next career, how do you think they can become from ordinary to extraordinary? Because I'm sure there must be competition, a lot of people in every field like it is. So how does one differentiates oneself, and how does one knows what kind of trait does a writer by a mindset or a DNA has that listening to you one can resonate that yes, this 1 2 3 pointers I also have, so why not try myself into this field or passion?
Sure. A couple thoughts. First of all, the cardinal rule in writing, whether you're writing a blog or fiction, or whether you're writing that resume, or whether I'm writing for Congress, is You have to know your audience, know what the audience knows about the subject, know what the audience needs to learn from you, and make sure you write in a language, whether technical for technicians or more generic for policymakers. Use the right terminology to convey your story to the audience so that it resonates. You could have, well, if you mismatch the terminology to the audience, your message is dead on arrival. So that's
Mm,
number one. The
okay.
second thing, and this is the primary principle of right to influence, is I'm going to ask you to imagine a white rectangle. Okay, a white rectangle,
Mm-hmm.
and the purpose behind that image is that every author is constrained by two things. You're constrained by time, tick tick, I'm busy, what do you need? And you're constrained by physical space. So
Mm,
sometimes that space is a demarcated area on a form. Sometimes it's a describe your grant submission in 250 words or summarize your article in 120 characters. So now on that little white rectangle, put the word opportunity in big, black, bold letters.
mm,
So the principle is that the writer who leverages best the available time and the available opportunity wins. And to do that, you have to make every single word count and every second of the reader's time play to your advantage. And that's what my strategies and my word sculpting tools teach in the book.
mm.
So to circle back to your question, success lies in recognizing that you have to write from the reader's perspective,
Okay. Wow.
and you have to make every single word count. Otherwise, the fish swims away from the hook.
And these days, world is so fast. Whether you're a video logger, whether you're a writer, people have so small instance like an elevator speech to catch their attention. So I think that these are wonderful pointers, and the team is trying to also write down the notes so we can have. So know your audience, learn how to use the best time. Paraphrasing that white rectangle example, that's I
Sure.
think a
Now,
wonderful thought.
yeah.
Uh,
And now I think I'm an image. I'm a visual person. So for this next thought, please imagine an inverted triangle.
hmm,
Okay, inverted triangle.
okay.
The way I teach my methodology is the first thing you have to do is strategize your message. And the first quarter of my book, Right to Influence, is all about here's how you strategize the message. And Farid, ask me about a golden nugget in a minute, okay? Golden nugget. Okay,
Hmm.
so first you have to strategize the message. And when you do a gut dump, as I describe it, then you come down to the bottom point of the triangle. That's part two of the book. Those are the word sculpting tools. And that's where you go sentence by sentence. And applying my 10 word sculpting tools, you carve out the useless words, the redundancies, the bureaucratic blather. And when you're done with that complete triangle, you've got one powerful product that leverages every ounce of space to your advantage. But you have to start by knowing how to strategize the message, and then you do the word sculpting tools. Now, the golden nugget, that's another one of the strategies. So recognizing that the readers are busy. If you have a point that you really want them to get, you put that up as high in the product as possible. Don't bury it 4 paragraphs down. Don't
Hmm.
bury that one fact in the middle of a very cumbersome, boring paragraph. You get that on top.
Hmm.
So that's the thought of don't bury the
Wow.
golden nugget.
Wow. So we learned three top things: the rectangle rule, the triangle rule, and then the golden nuggets. And I think I can resonate. One of the subject matter experts who was here, he is like someone who has worked for Facebooks and Twitters and those kinds of, these people keep on improving their website design, like Amazon's and eBay, tons of times, even in a day. So he said me, like, usually the websites, people, why do strong SaaS subscription as a service? Sometimes they fail, sometimes they get to the next level. So he said the same thing, exactly what you said in writing, that your first 800 by 600 screen,
Mhm,
that's your, or maybe you translate it as rectangle in terms of writing, and he
mhm.
being the UI designer for these big Fortune 500 companies, makes sense. Makes sense.
Well,
Wonderful, Carla.
Yeah, they call that the above the fold on the web page, and that's
Above
the
the
same
fold.
thing as maybe the first 90 seconds of your attention. I have to nail your attention. And so you know, I learned that when I was briefing generals. If you have only 2 minutes to brief a general or to brief a CEO or to market a product to a potential customer, you only have 2 minutes. What's the most important thing to convey? So
True.
that's actually another one of my strategies is you triage, you develop an outline. If
Hmm.
I have 2 minutes, I'll say A, B, and C. If I have 5 minutes, I can expand it. If I have 10 minutes, I'll expand it
And
below.
more
But you
time.
have to organize and strategize. How are you going to leverage that time?
And probably the higher you go, the lesser the time is probably, right?
Yep.
So you have to present yourself very crisp, clear, and using the strategies. So thank you, Carla. I think that was my next question. Probably if you can share some strategies from your book, which I think you already did. So you kind of answered that question. For someone, Carla, because not everybody would be the native English speaker, right? And many would be immigrants moving from different countries, and content writing as a freelance is also a very big thing that people do, like as you said, blogs, or ghost writing, or these days SEO writing, people really want to get into. What other opportunities you think somebody who is getting into this has, and how much can one earn? I know there is always a mean median mode, but what would be your analysis in today, especially post pandemic, when people are really looking for new opportunities, losing their jobs, working from home? What are the avenues, and what is the calibration on the market?
I'm sorry, the calibration on the market for what? Can you?
Calibration in terms of like pay scales, or how much can they earn as a
Oh,
freelancers and those kinds of things.
I don't know. I'm sorry. I have no visibility into that. But recognizing that many people are indeed suffering because of the devastation that COVID has wrought globally. When this pandemic first arrived or just kind of devastated everybody, I purposefully wrote 3 free ebooks that are on my website.
Wow.
The first is called Right to Win a Standout Resume. The second is Right to Win Input to Your Performance Reviews.
Wow.
And the third is Input to Write a Grant Submission.
Hmm.
My thought was those are the 3 real world products that would be most beneficial to everybody who is struggling collectively. And so each one of those free ebooks, in each one of those books, I take all of the strategies and all of the word sculpt. Ask me to tell you about word sculpting, but I take all of the strategies and all the word sculpting tools and I focus them specifically on each one of those 3 products. And that was my way of trying to give of myself and to help others. So it's all there. Just download those 3 free ebooks.
Wow, wonderful. A kind of person who you are, having that 30 years service at a colonel level in Air Force, and all that what you do, giving the free books is really an impact. Stay blessed for what you're doing. And I can resonate that three things: the resume, the performance, and the grant writing. So it's good for somebody who's professional, as well as somebody who's writing or starting a business, getting grants or not for profits. I think you have taken care of all the. You were telling us something about word sculpting.
Yeah. So that would you remember that was the bottom point of my inverted triangle. That's
Right.
part two of the book.
Hmm.
So if you can imagine that you are a sculptor and you're in Paris and you've got that funny little beret and you've got your hammer and chisel and you're facing an 8 foot chunk of marble, because you are a master sculptor, okay, you know the image that lies dormant within that marble. You feel it. And
Hmm.
so chisel, chisel, hammer, hammer, there's the rubble, there's your statue. Word sculpting does the same thing, except instead of having that chunk of marble, you have your draft, the
Okay.
very first draft. And so, like I said, sentence by sentence, you go through your draft and you apply the word sculpting tools. Now, here, I'll give a couple examples. One of them I call Verbs Are Your Friends, Rely on Them. So I want you to imagine a hard boiled egg.
Okay.
Okay. And now I want you to make that hard boiled egg 6 foot tall, big honking hard boiled egg. All
Okay.
right. Now focus on the yoke. The yoke is the verb. And all of that white stuff is how we suffocate verbs nowadays in our horrible bureaucratic blather. And I'll give you some examples. Provide notification is notify. Provide a description is describe. Has a constraining effect on is constrains. Submit an application is apply. Place emphasis on is emphasize. And I could go on and on and on. So
All
with this
right.
particular tool, look at each sentence, look at your verbs, and make sure that you trim it to the absolute bare necessity, because we just write with such was nowadays. Okay.
Right, right. I'm
Uh,
I'm
I,
absorbing, and I think that egg and the yolk example is you're a visual person. You know the way you are making that writing so creative. Wonderful.
Well, and that's how I explain it in the book. I mean, the book is fun. I have cartoons, not cartoons, images, characters that a good friend of mine who is a Disney artist. So this is not a grammar book. This is like I'm talking to you.
Talking to me,
Uh,
and creative senses, creative
well,
juices flowing through. Wonderful.
exactly. I'll share one more word sculpting tool. This is tool number 2. It's
Hmm.
called Don't Use Words That Hog Space.
Okay.
Now I have 3 different types of words that hog space. I can share one just because there's not enough time.
Hmm.
But an example of this is on a daily basis. You never, 100% of the time, you never have to say on a blank basis. Everybody says it. Talking heads, news broadcasters. I do something daily. I do something monthly. I do something weekly. We do something nationally. You never have to say on a blank basis.
Hmm.
Another example is in an expeditious manner. Okay, expeditiously, in the aftermath of, after, on at least one occasion, at least once. Okay.
Hmm. Hmm.
Oh, I love this one. Created cost savings. How about saved money?
Save money or something similar. Okay, got
Yep.
it, got it.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. So
So
many
once
things we use frequently day to day also is not around that verbiage thing, the verb thing that you explained. It makes
So
sense.
the
Makes sense. I
the
think it
the
would take
beauty,
time to digest, but I think that yoke example is the perfect fit.
I know,
Carla.
and the beauty of this is, once you've got the message strategized, okay, so you know the audience, you know the message, you've prioritized and triaged what you want to say, and
Hmm.
then you get rid of all that horrible writing. You buy yourself more space
Right.
because you've thrown out all that wasted words. And now think back to my little rectangle. What do you get when you buy more space? You
Hmm.
buy more opportunity to keep making your case.
Got it.
All
Got it.
right.
Got it. Got it. So
So
that
this applies.
rectangle, it leads to that triangle, sculpting the tool, and then staying around the verb. Okay.
Yep. So this applies to bloggers. It even applies to authors of fiction, because nobody likes to read fat writing. Okay, that's what I call it, fat versus skinny. If I'm looking at a fiction book and I can read maybe 2 sentences on the whole page and flip it without missing anything, that's atrocious writing. I find it insulting. The
Hmm.
the authors who have you hanging on every single word, and I tout Daniel Silva, Dean Koontz, Diana Gabaldon. Those are my 3 exemplar writers. I mean, every single word, they keep you hanging. They don't waste a syllable. And
Hmm.
so that's the type of writing that you should strive for, whether you're writing for Congress, for your CEO, or a resume or input to your own performance review. Every single word has to count.
Has to count. True, true. Carla, tell us something more about. We spoke about things about professionals helping them out to reach the next career level. What advice you have? How can writing help entrepreneurs? Tell us from your experience on grant writings, how you have helped entrepreneurs, and how writing can help, especially the small business entrepreneurs who are at the level which is growing, and how can this help them in their day-to-day life?
Well, sure, and I can actually speak from experience, because I too I still consider myself a young entrepreneur. I started this business in 2017, and I still have a day job with the government. So but
Juggling both this stuff.
yeah, exactly. So I guess it comes with how can I talk about this? Knowing your customers, knowing what your customers want, matching what you have to offer with the customer's needs,
Hmm.
and then communicating it in terms that they'll understand. So, for example, here's how not to do it. Okay. I'm an author. I come to you and I say, Farid, you have to buy my book. It won 8 national level awards. Your response is, okay, good for you, but eh. Now, if I say, Farid, this book will help you change your life because it will teach you how to A, B, C, D, E. Now I've got your attention.
Hmm.
All right. So whether you're marketing a product, selling a service, whatever you pitch, you need to learn how to pitch it from the customers or the target
Perspective.
audience's perspective.
And
So
speaking, rather than
that's
speaking about yourself, try to speak and collude to those
yeah.
lines which attracts them.
It everything needs to center on the audience, not
Wonderful.
you. And that's a mistake that a lot of people make in resumes is they and I guess it's a natural inclination, but look how wonderful I am. I can do all these great things. They're talking about, I'm talking about me. I'm not talking about you, the potential employer. So you need to pivot the whole approach on the resume and explain, okay, Farid, I saw your job announcement. I recognize your need. Okay, there's this hole in the dike. I recognize that.
Hmm.
Here's how I can help you. Here's how I can fill that hole in your dike. So my resume should not be about me. It should be
About
about here's
you.
my experiences as
Oh,
they will solve your problems.
wow, wow. You have just turned the table side towards the employer. Wonderful.
Completely. It's all about the audience.
Wonderful. And I think people usually do the same thing which you spoke about. It's always on the other side, and the employer or the entrepreneur or the customer is looking for the other side of the words. Carla,
Yeah.
last question. We'll try to keep it because we have just crossed 15 minutes. And we'll again. I know you have a busy schedule, but uh, what's your philosophy? Every successful person has his or her proverbs, words of wisdom, something they always reverts to, and they're kind of requires motivation. So formally, informally, what's your philosophy? What's your something that you want to share with the audience?
Sure. This is something that my mother told me when I was a child growing up. Okay, so I hadn't left home yet. Almost every single day, she beat this into me, not literally,
Hmm.
but over and over, like that drum beat that was demanding to be heard.
Hmm.
Her words to me, and I pass this on to your audience, is there's no such word as can't.
Hmm.
Okay,
No such
no
word as
such
can.
word as can't. But mom, I can't, blah, blah. No such word as can't. Set your goals high and go get them. And that is just such a wonderful philosophy to apply daily. If you recognize that everything is possible, all you have to do is go out and get it. You have to be hungry.
I have to be
And
hungry.
accept the fact that there's no such word as can't. That propels you. It lets you do things that you honestly would not have imagined otherwise.
True, true, very true. So behind a wonderful lady, there is a wonderful philosophy. We learned, and
And a tribute to my mom on that one.
definitely, definitely. And last question: any specific message that you have for our audience from what you do, your subject matter expertise? That
Uh,
based on these days, especially the delta is coming back, and people are slightly under that panic mode. That are we going back to point zero? What would you advise for people who are trying to learn and find a way to living based on what you do to make.
okay, two thoughts. The first thought is that um, like a powerful writing opens doors to opportunity. If you can't equip yourself with this skill set, you are self-eliminating from so many possible golden opportunities you don't even know because they wouldn't manifest themselves to you. So one is learn how to write powerfully. It's a lifelong skill set. Second thought is the beauty of all of this is if you learn how to write this way just once, it
Hmm.
applies to so many things. It's like that gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, right.
And then speaking of giving, the third thing I wanted to mention is I put out a twice monthly newsletter. It's short. It's surprise, surprise, short and to the point. I value my readers' time. And so this newsletter contains substantive articles with more tips on here's how to write powerfully from all sorts of different
Yeah,
perspectives.
nice.
But I guess I thrill in trying to help people help themselves. And so if they want the newsletter, Carla at write2influence.net, email
Mhm,
me,
mhm.
and I'd be glad to add you to the list.
Sure, sure. So wonderful. Thank you so much, Carla, for your time. I think all the links to your books and especially the free books, that's something that amazed me. How do you care about the impact? So thank you for your time. I know you have a busy schedule and the way openly you described all the strategies, I'm sure helped our audience a lot. And be ready to answer to a lot of emails because they're going to email you and tag you. So
I
all
hope
the links
so.
will be there. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, Carla, for being on the show. And glad to have you.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.